Good afternoon. My name is Janet Karim, welcoming you to Sunrise New York on Malawi UN channel. In the studio today with me is Mrs. Chris Silumbu, who covers the second committee, which deals with economic affairs and sustainable development. I'm catching up with Mrs. Silumbu just to talk with her on issues on the Rio Plus 20. You might be reading a lot of information in the news or hearing about it on other television channels, and we just want to know for our viewers what Rio 20 stands for. Mrs. Silumbu, what is?
Basically, when they say Rio Plus 20, Rio it's a capital of Brazil, and Rio Plus 20 it's the meeting, the first Earth meeting on sustainable development was held in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in 1992, and this is the 20th year after the first Earth Summit. So Rio Plus 20 is a short term for the UN Conference on Sustainable Development, which will be held next year in Brazil.
Next year?
Yes.
So we are getting prepared, we are preparing for something, a conference that's going to happen next year. That must take a lot. What is it that is being done or that the UN is doing in preparation for Rio Plus 20?
Yeah, in fact, the UN began the process in 2009, whereby the General Assembly adopted a resolution calling for the UN to hold this particular conference that will be held in Brazil. This conference will be held from 4th to 6th of June, that is 2012. Preparations have begun. In fact, they began last year, whereby we'll have preparatory meetings, 3 preparatory meetings before the actual meeting in Brazil. But currently, as G77 and China countries, we are also meeting on almost on daily basis to look at what is our position. What do we want to include in the outcome document for this particular conference? Because as you know, this conference is very, very important for us developing countries. And the theme for this conference being green economy, in the context of sustainable development. This theme is very, very crucial and very, very important for us developing countries. So we are taking all the chances to come up with what we need to be included in the outcome document for this conference. So right now, as in second committee, we have a resolution, and we are negotiating within the group on what we want to include in the outcome document. And the second preparatory meeting will be held this December here at the UN headquarters, and we are expecting to come up with a summary, and this summary will have an input into the actual outcome document for the conference.
And as a country, what is Malawi doing and how is Malawi preparing to participate in this conference?
In fact, you might be aware that we had a conference in Addis Ababa recently, whereby African states came up with their position on what they want to see in this in the outcome document. Malawi being a member of African Union, we are also part of that particular meeting, and we participated actively in the meetings in Addis Ababa. So we would want to see a lot to do with food security. As you know, Malawi, we depend on agriculture, and with the problem of climate change, it's affecting everybody. So we would want to see more on the solution regarding climate change in relation to agriculture.
This animal called climate change, we've been discussing it and discussing it, have we gone beyond? I remember a few years ago, we always had this debate whereby industrialized countries were calling on the developing countries to follow certain codes of ethics so as to ensure that the impacts of climate change are not, felt, or they're not exacerbated. But I don't know whether have we moved beyond the finger pointing that was going on in those few years ago? Or are we still there?
Yeah, we are still there. The problem right now with the developed countries is when their language to do with financial assistance or ODA in a document, they always say, no, we are also having problems. We cannot commit ourselves to say we'll give you this and that because we are also having problems. So this issue of further commitment is very, very crucial in our negotiations, and they are not forthcoming to assist the developing countries in terms of financial resources as well as technical resources. So for us developing countries, we are saying no. We have the political will to sort out this problem, but we are lacking financial resources, so you have to help us. We are lacking capacity building, you have to assist us. So this battle is still on, and we are having a climate conference this December in South Africa. This is also an opportunity for us as developing countries to continue pushing the developed countries to come forward and commit themselves in terms of financial assistance to developing countries such as Malawi.
Now, when Malawi participates at these conferences, you talked of the issue of capacity building. Does Malawi have the capacity? Does it have the technocrats to go into these meetings and engage with the other technocrats from the industrialized countries?
Yes, of course. Malawi has experts. We have people from the Ministry of Natural Resources. I know one or two officers who normally engage in the negotiations. So yes, Malawi has the capacity to do that. And we'll go there in December. As I said, there'll be a meeting on climate change in Johannesburg. And I know right now the Minister of Natural Resources are busy preparing for this particular meeting. So yes, we'll be there in December.
Now, from Rio in 1992, if I've done my arithmetic correctly, to 2012, that's 20 years.
Yes, of course.
So has the program that was etched out in 1992 been fulfilled?
That's why we are convening this conference in Rio to assess the progress that has been made and to renew the political will that is there. But on my personal view, I would say there is a lot to be done. On our part as the Malawi, we are doing all we can to achieve the MDGs through sustainable development. So this is very, very, very crucial to our country, Malawi.
Can you give us an example of some of the things Malawi is doing in attaining this MDG 7, I believe it is?
I don't need to mention, Mrs. Karim. We all know food security. Right now, we are a role model at the UN. Whenever there is a meeting on food security, Malawi has always been mentioned as being a role model in the area of food security. So yes.
And the mission here in Malawi, in New York, the mission here, the permanent mission here in New York, what role is it playing in Rio Plus 20?
We have a huge role to play as a mission. We are representing Malawi at the UN. So as you know, this conference is a UN conference, and all the negotiations, most of the meetings are being done at the UN. As a mission, we make sure that Malawi's participation at these negotiations.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Krise Silumbu. Well, viewers, you have heard for yourself. Rio Plus 20 is coming, and I can safely say that Malawi is ready. This has been Janet Karim on Sunrise New York on Malawi UN channel.